Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Tonight's session brings together two important moments, Public Service Recognition Week and the upcoming United States Semi-Quincentennial. We're going to start with Public Service Recognition Week because at its core, this week is about people. It's about recognizing the individuals who keep things running every day, often without much visibility or acknowledgement. Public service is not abstract. It is the systems we rely on daily: roads, schools, public safety, and community programs. It is the work that happens consistently, whether we notice it or not. From there, we'll step back and connect to that work to a broader perspective. 250 years of public service in this country, not as a history lesson, but as a way to understand how this work has continued, adapted, and expanded over time. Our goal tonight is simple: to connect what public service looks like today with the system that has sustained it and to reflect on why it still matters. We're glad you are here and we look forward to the conversation. My name is Dr. Carla Drenner, and I'm glad to be with you tonight. I want to take a moment to walk through how we will spend our time together this evening. We're going to begin with Public Service Recognition Week, focusing on what public service looks like in daily life and the impact it has on our communities. From there, we're going to look a little deeper at the work behind the work, the systems and the processes that support what we see. We will then transition into the 250-year perspective, connecting today's public service to the longer arc of how it has continued and evolved over time. We'll also take a moment to recognize individuals who represent public service in action and then open it up for a brief discussion. We'll close by bringing those ideas together and reflecting on why this work continues to matter. So let's begin with what is Public Service Recognition Week. Public Service Recognition Week is really all about taking a moment to recognize the people behind the work. Public service really shows up in ways we rely on every day, from transportation systems, schools, public safety, and community programs. These systems function because of individuals who are doing the work often consistently and without much visibility. It's easy to focus on policy or outcomes, but this week reminds us that none of it happens without the people who carry it out.
Carla,
And
excuse me for just a second. We can't see your slides advancing.
for real? Oh man. Okay, let me stop the share. Technical glitch here.
This looks like
Sorry,
such a great
guys.
presentation. I didn't want you to waste the slides.
Well, I appreciate that. I don't want to waste the slides.
There we are.
Okay, so can everybody see? All right. Forgive me. So, what is Public Service Recognition Week? This focuses on the people doing the work today. At the same time, is really about taking a moment to recognize the people behind the work. Oh, I've already gone through this slide, which brings me to at the same time, we are approaching the United States semi-quincentennial, which gives us a chance to step back and look at the work over time. Public service has continued across generations. While the roles in the systems have evolved, the core responsibility, supporting communities, and implementing policy has remained. To bring that back to the present, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Heather Robertson, who will walk us through what public service looks like in action and how it connects to our daily lives. Take it away, Dr. Robinson.
Thank you, Dr. Drenner. I've known you before I knew my son-in-law, but my daughter just got married and their last name is Drennan. So it is so hard for me to say
Oh,
Dren.
what a small world.
I know, but I promise I will mention Drenner instead of Drennan tonight. So, but at any rate, Dr. Heather Robertson here, and you can go to the next slide. I think my name is enough. We'll go to the fun part. There we go. And I'm here to really just talk about what public service looks like, as Dr. Drenner mentioned, right now in 2026 as we celebrate our 250th anniversary as a country. I first want to kind of just start out with kind of everybody with this foundational thought that government in its existence is really there to provide foundational security for all of us and stability in our daily lives. Okay. I mean, we have chosen to live in a system that, we are able to have these basic needs provided with public funds, and it's all administered by public service workers. So when you see all of this and you interface with all of these things in your daily lives, really understand, what it would be like if they were to go away, if those people were not there, or if it was reduced to a point where there's only 10% of the people there than there used to be or something. And one of the things that I always, used to start whenever I was teaching eons ago and first started in American government classes, I wanted people to kind of imagine what it's like to come up to an intersection and the traffic light is out. And what does that do to your morning commute? What does that do to your day? I mean, it's not only a pain, but it's also extremely stressful and you're in danger and the people around you are in danger. If you have ever been without water, there's a water main break or something, and you're just like, oh, forget this. This is horrible. I can't take a shower or, I grew up in Florida, so if there was a hurricane, oh my goodness, we always had to kind of figure that out. So those things of daily life, everyday life, really public service, the workforce in the public sector makes all of that happen. And we don't think about it, as it says here, it's something that you don't think about every day. And, I'm a complete nerd. I drive down the street and I think, wow, I'm really happy that my, municipality provides beautiful roads. The other nerdy part of me is when I go to the county next to me and there's all kinds of potholes and I wonder what they're spending their money on. But again, it's that daily life that we interface with, and these people too and we're all a part of it as well, that are public service workers. They're not always one visible and not always appreciated. So that's why we're here this evening, because again, these are kind of the face of government. This is the people that get the good and the bad. Sometimes it's mostly the complaints. And they definitely carry a lot on their shoulders. So all right. So all of that being said, here's some stats that I pulled out for this evening. We are really at 22 million, plus of public service employees across all government levels. So again, you're thinking all the government spheres here, local, state, and federal. As far as annual state and local spending on government, it's 1.5 trillion approximately. That's a very large number, but in the big government spending world, it's not as big as it could be. So, and then this is a stat that I really like is 1 in 6 Americans are employed in public service. And I would like to add to that even if they're not directly employed in public service, they are probably somehow public service adjacent. So think about private contractors that work with the government. Think about private companies that have private partnerships. Think about private companies that have contracts again to work with government entities, or even just the regulations that governments have over certain industries. There are probably workers within those private industries that are very much tied to the public service employment. So they might as well be public service employees. So it's a reach far and wide. As far as kind of the things that people do, I'm not going to go too much into that because Dr. Pendergrass is going to expand on that a lot more. But really think about, kind of the things that you interface most with. And I just want to give a plug, particularly since it is primary day, and hopefully everybody voted. Really the services at your local level and the public service workers at your local level are generally the folks that you interact with the most, and and you don't even realize it. You go through your day and you don't even realize it. Then I would say probably your state would come next, and of course it's when you have to do those fun things like go to the DMV, and of course driving on highways and our wonderful public universities. And then at the federal level, these are all things that are there. They're kind of invisible things that everyone depends on daily. That, again, if they were impacted, something like Social Security or veterans benefits or even national defense or our national parks, it would leave a big hole in our daily life and in our safety net, essentially. So. All right, so I'm going to definitely be popping back in when we get into the latter part, whenever we're kind of doing a question and answer. But I do want to leave you with just kind of a last thought here as we go through the rest of this. Really, the work of public service is the work of democracy itself. Because again, it's all of us deciding what services we need, what services we are willing to spend our public money on, how we want those administered, and then what we expect from those that we elect and those who are serving us in a public service role. All right, I will turn it over to our next presenter, which I believe is Dr. Pendergrass.
Good evening, everybody. Dr. Pendergrass. I teach a couple classes here. I'm a retired fire chief, so I'm going to tell a story, a little bit different, and I'm going to read it, and I'm going to try to do slow. I've been told that I speak a little bit too fast at times. So Mike woke up. There we go. And as I'm reading the story, just look at this slide in front of you and see how circles within circles, systems, people tie together in a looped system that is always continuously spiraling. So Mike woke up early Monday morning to the sound of his phone ringing. Seeing the local police officer on the caller ID, he immediately answered. Within 10 minutes, he was in his car, headed toward the water treatment plant. Firefighters were actively drawing water to support an ongoing emergency in a neighboring jurisdiction. As a result, fire levels in the city's water tower were dropping quickly. Those levels are critical. They help to maintain minimum pressure needed to safely distribute water throughout the community. At the same time, the local hospital was approaching a critical threshold. Their dialysis unit relies on a minimum of 52 pounds of pressure to operate its reverse osmosis system. The distribution system was at 51 pounds and still falling. Pumps needed to be manually started due to the water intake project that was not anticipated to be completed for another 3 months. To make matters more complicated, the streets and underground utility project blocked Mike's normal route. He had to take an alternative path. But Mike was prepared. Just days earlier, during the city's weekly leadership meeting, department heads had gathered to share updates, past, present, and upcoming. The police chief noted that the new enhanced 911 system would go live Monday morning, ideally before most residents were awake. The fire chief warned of ongoing red flag conditions across the state, which limited resources due to multiple mutual aid responses. The public works director discussed the ongoing highway project, installing water and sanitary sewer lines to support growth in the city, including the new hospital expansion. This project was driven by recent community investments, including aquatic center upgrades, With that growth came increased system demand, aging infrastructure under higher increased system demand, um, increased pressures, and more complex from a more complex distribution network. Rounding the horn, the Parks and Rec director reminded everyone the regional swim meet would begin Monday morning. It would be easy to silo these events and keep the information within respective divisions. However, because we tore down our silos years earlier, it was easy to recognize that all of these moving pieces were connected. Mike's ability to respond didn't happen by chance. Years earlier, he graduated from a local public school system before serving the U.S. military, where he was trained in geographical informational systems. After his service, he returned home to attend technical college to specialize in water system management. His training was shaped by state and federal regulations to guide how these systems are designed and operated. When Mike applied for his role with the city, he was selected through a coordinated effort between human resource professionals, IT specialists, public works leadership, executive administration, and ultimately the approval of the governing body. Because systems have been built, exercised, communicated to everyone, Officer Jones was notified of the fire in the neighboring jurisdiction due to the enhanced dispatch system. The incident commander was updated of the potential water shortages and knew to make critical contacts should an event arise. The public works director had communicated the events during the daily safety check-ins, so staff were aware. Everyone was given the why behind the infrastructure projects long before it began. Weekly progress reports kept the city staff updated on all current statuses. Multi-agency coordination kept outside jurisdictions in complete situational awareness. The swim meet occurred without a hitch. Mike is not alone. Public service is made up of interconnected systems, people like Mike and you, working behind the scenes every day. Each role, each department, each decision contributes to a larger mission, ensuring that when Mr. and Mrs. Smith turn on their faucet, the water is there, safe, reliable, and without a second thought. Because when public systems work well, no one notices. And that's exactly the point. Go to the next slide. Government agencies are systems, not silos. We can all recognize the tendencies to protect our agencies, but we almost remember they're not our independent fiefdoms. Each agency is a smaller part of a greater system. The heart cannot function without brains, arteries, capillaries, blood, product, electricity, et cetera, and neither can government. So when you're looking at these slides, you can see the same titles exist in all of those. Public Works exists across the board. Our planning and zoning professionals, our parks and recreation professionals all exist not in a vacuum, but in a complete system. The system doesn't work independent of another one. You cannot have your law enforcement. We used to joke in the fire service that this department, or that some of the other agencies or other divisions within the department, your streets department, your public works, your fleet services, used to say this agency would be great, or this city would be great, or this county would be great if it wasn't for all those darn firemen taking all of our money, or law enforcement taking all of our money. And we would sit back in the fire service and we'd make jokes about them as well. But the reality is there's a recognition that none of us can do this alone, and it takes everybody working together to make a system work. If the blood if there was no blood in the system, you go into cardiac failure. If you have a burst in a vein, okay, you can live with that for a little while, but blood isn't getting back to the heart. Artery bursts, depending on the significance of it and the location, you're going to have a major fluid collapse and go into cardiogenic shock. And depending on where it's at, you can be dead within 30 seconds. And obviously, if the pump quits pumping, nothing gets anywhere. So we are a system of individuals working together to create functional organs so that the system itself can circulate the needed resources throughout the community. And I've been a lifelong public servant ever since I was 18 years old. I started as a paramedic, and the value at all of your roles, the value of everything that contributes to what we accomplish is worthless if we're not working together to do it for a greater good, which is the Mr. and Mrs. Smiths of the world. So thank you very much. We can move on to the next one.
Dr. Bill.
Yes. How am I broadcasting? Are you able to hear me okay? Perfect. My name is Dr. William Campbell. It's my pleasure to be with you this evening, join my colleagues in this wonderful process of going over public administration. I think it's a fantastic field. I have been in it myself, in full disclosure, roughly 47 years. That's a long time. But I started when I was 18 years of age and have the benefit of having the Air Force and the Navy behind me as well. I felt like I was in public administration even before that because my father was an engineer at the Naval Avionics Facility in Indianapolis, Indiana. I am a Hoosier. Um, Public service is a fantastic arena. We can go forward with the next slide if we can. Public service is a fantastic arena. It's needed all over the world. The organization I have been a part of for many years now is we've been in 56 different countries and we built governments in 20 of those, 27 of those actually, covering now, as far as those trained, 147,000 government employees. That's people who are interested in understanding the United States version of public administration and being able to facilitate and move government forward. My own organization has worked with Kosovo, training every government official in that country from the president on down so that they could gain independence from the United Nations, putting together the Kurg Academy of Education, building the Anti-Terrorism Center in Azerbaijan, and a multitude of other things that we've had the pleasure of working with. All public administrators, all wanting to know how to put government together and make it all work. There's changing demographics, education, skill, all of this is changing in the processes. You know, we've looked at a multitude of things, and I wanted to mention tonight the aspect of accountability equaling liability, equaling accountability again. No more do we have that immunity process. And some of this comes from some of our colleagues out there who have gone through some traumatic events. There's the case of Johnny Elvis Johnson, for those who know IRS history. Johnny Johnson, back in 1987, was someone who was a vice president of American National Insurance. He had a small issue related to his tax situation. It was related to an income tax evasion. He signed an agreement with the regional commissioner for the Internal Revenue Service in Houston, Texas, and they agreed that if he would plead guilty to a small violation, that it would not be released to the press and it would be handled discreetly. Unfortunately, when Johnny Johnson signed the agreement, basically saying that he was guilty, they released it to the Houston Post. It affected the stock. It affected Johnny Johnson personally. He was terminated. Johnny Johnson filed suit against the United States government and the Internal Revenue Service. To my knowledge, he's the only person in history that has won a successful case against the Internal Revenue Service and the employees. 140 employees were working in Houston, Texas, and in Galveston who were directly impacted. A $10 million award was given to Johnny Johnson. That impacted everyone who was working relative to that case in collections, in investigations, public relations, human resources, anyone that was involved whatsoever that they could establish venue related to that problem. What that did to the performers who worked for the Internal Revenue Service and some of the outlying agencies that assisted, they attached our homes, they put liens on our property, on our bank accounts, and it took years for the Internal Revenue Service to step in and hold those employees harmless. True fact, folks. So these are some of the things that happened. Now, that $10 million award, if we extrapolated that out, I understand related to all the other factors involved, would come out to $334 million today. And it was actually through appeal brought down to $3 million over 15 years. And the same individuals were impacted. So we look at things like those public officials who had nothing at all to do with that decision, who were impacted and who were impacted in a very serious way. Now, as we look at that, you look at the Merit Systems Protection Board, which came into function in 1979. Just last year alone, they identified 60,000 cases. 2025 had over 5,000 decisions, and 17% of the terminations that were brought to the Merit Systems Protection Board resulted in overturned terminations. So a lot of people said, well, what is the value of the Merit Systems Protection? Well, we know what merit systems are. If you're in public service, you love it. basically says you're not going to be the quarterback unless you can play football. You're not going to be the pitcher unless you can throw the ball. You're not going to be a star tennis player unless you can play the game. Not only play the game, but be the best that you can be. Things like tenure, time in service, time in grade, all of this is taken into consideration for the merit systems process. They investigated things like equal employment opportunity, secret clearances being pulled, whistleblower retaliation, sexual harassment, wrongful terminations. So the Merit Systems Protection Board had tremendous value. A similar process exists in 33 states of the United States relative to being able to protect government employees who serve the government. So when we look at that, we then found the process of the government employees saying, what do we do in the future? How can we be impacted? How can we be protected? Well, one of the things that exists today, which I think is a dynamic process, and that's the value of professional liability insurance. You have Feds protection, Star Right, GEBA, and that for $290 to $500 annually, you can have between $1 and $3 million of professional liability insurance. Not only does this protect you in criminal cases that you might be charged as a government employee, but also affects you related to administrative actions that might be taken against you as an administrative employee working for the government. Now, we didn't have that 25 years ago. You didn't have that, or 75 years ago, or 100 years ago, or certainly not 200 years ago. So we look at these things. One of the other things that we've seen come about in the last probably 60 years is Fair Labor Standards Act class action suits. I was working in an FBI office in Houston, Texas during the World Economic Summit, 1988, I believe it was. And somebody ran down the hallway and grabbed my shoulder and they said, Bill, you want to be part of this? There's a class action suit for FLOSSA, Fair Labor Standards Act, because we're being denied pay. And I said, well, I don't think I can participate in that. I'm a senior special agent. And they said, no, you can. It actually is representing all the federal agents, all of those involved in law enforcement. So for $25, I joined that class action suit. I thought I was going to be the only one that ever did it. 4 years later, I'd been transferred to Miami. I was working in my office in Brickell, and I got a letter saying the government had just settled, and I got a check for $100,000. True fact. So right now, there's FLOSSA suits going on related to people who are working for the federal government who are being denied pay. They're being denied pay, and they're joining those class action suits relative to FLOSSA, Fair Labor Standards Act. And it's just a matter of them paying that little fee. I think now the fee's $75, but it's just incredible. So we're looking at changes that are happening in the public arena. I deal with it all the time when I'm looking at processes around the world. And I think it's a wonderful field. I think it really matters to the public servant. But there's nobody who goes into the field of the public arena who's doing it because they want to get rich. For the most part, they're doing it because they have a really deep heart and really deep soul to help public service. All those who go into, especially those who are serving, in the capacity of elected public servants, and those who are working in fire science and law enforcement, put their life on the line every day. So I'll pass that to our next colleague, and thank you very much.
I think that's me. Thank you so much, Dr. Bill. I appreciate that. My name is Dr. Samantha Seaman. I have a background in federal public service. I started working I was an intern when I was working on my bachelor's degree, and then was going to go to law school and graduated and was all set to go to law school. And about a month later said, what was I thinking? I don't want to go to law school. So I needed a job. And I immediately went back to the agency I had been working with under the Department of Justice and said, I really need a job. Do you have anything? And I got picked up. And I'll be honest with you, it was not necessarily something that I had initially thought that I was going to do forever. It was, I needed a job. I needed to pay my school loans, right? And 28 years later, I retired. I worked in federal law enforcement from the time I was 22 years old. I retired when I was 50 in Halloween of 2023. And so lots and lots of years. So, what I had initially planned is like a stopgap measure to keep my roof over my head, turn into a lifelong career that more than anything, I really felt like I was doing something important in the world. And that was one of those things for me. I really wanted to feel like I was doing something, I was giving back. And I think that that's what draws a lot of us into public service, that we often hear it referred to as public service motivation, PSM. It's that, that drive to give back, to want to do more in public service. And so, we've a lot of these different, everybody's talked about how all the different parts. The military's in there as well, right? So, thinking about all the years that all the years that people spend in service. And Carla, if you'll go to the next slide for me. One of the things that I always think about every year is how do we give thanks back to public services? Because a lot of us are public servants. Probably, I'm hoping that most of us here are or will be, this is what we want to do. But how do we give thanks for public service? So I want everybody to think about who you want to thank in public service. So for me, there are so many people. I think about all of my friends who are still working. I'm retired. There's a lot of them still working. In the federal service, it's kind of it's a tough time to be in public service. It's a tough time to be in federal public service. It's just kind of like ups and downs and cycles that we have, and you just kind of like go with the flow and stick it out. But so I think about all of those people every day. I think about my own family. I have 28 years. My husband had 20 years of public service. My dad was in the military, and when he retired from the military, he went into civil service. He had 51 years of civil service. My mother was my father was in the military. He married my mom was born in England, and my parents got married. My mom naturalized so that she could have a civil service position. She spent 33 years. My grandfather worked in federal service. He was in the Army, and then he went and worked with NASA for years and years and years. And my dad's mother was a nurse in North Carolina for the health department. And then when I look at all of my family, there's over 200 years of public service just in my own family. And we do see that a lot of people, will have generations. Now, we're finding that younger people today are not necessarily so interested in going into public service. So, I think that this is really important for us to recognize public servants and help everybody see how very, very important they are in the world, right? So in a minute, I'm going to give everybody a chance to kind of like chime in and tell us who you want to thank. But some of the ways that you can do that, there is actually, if you're a person who goes on social media, there's a hashtag that you can share stories. It's right there on your screen there. You can do the hashtag to share stories, and you can thank them, and that will go actually to the Public Service Recognition Week. I think that's I can't remember which organization it's with, but it comes back through there. There, you can also go to govloop.com, and actually you can send free e-cards for people. I actually did this for both of my parents this morning. I wrote to them, I said, thank you for your service, because their service motivated me to go into public service. Another funny, interesting thing is you can actually go to the Forest Service, and you can make a small donation, and they will plant a tree for you in memory or in honor, or to thank people who are in public service. And you can do that for a lot of other reasons. So who do you think should be thanked? Who do you personally want to thank? And I encourage you, if you want to turn your microphones on and speak up, you can put it in the chat and I'll read it off of the chat. But I'd really like to know who you would like to thank for their public service. And I will start by also thanking all of the panel members here today, Dr. Bill, Dr. Drenner, Dr. Pendergrass, Dr. Robertson. And there's other people in the chat there who I know are here. So who all would you like to thank for their public service? Come on, you got to know someone. All
Thank you,
right, there
Dr.
you go,
Seaman.
Dr. Pendergrass.
Yeah, I'm with you. Oh, wow. Thank you. Um,
All the
I
teachers.
I'm a multi-generational public servant. My brother is in the FBI right now. My father-in-law was a firefighter, and their mentorship, influence, and everything was critical toward me getting into it. And I mean, it shaped it. And Dr. Bill's same as you. Somebody probably before you even realized what direction you were going to go in life, um, influenced you enough to say, "Hey, at 18 years old, I'm going to be vomited on. I'm going to be have things thrown at me. I'm going to deliver a baby. I'm going to do all these crazy things." And I had so many family members and friends and mentors. One of them even paid for me to go to part of my schooling
Oh, wow.
because he was so driven to see me succeed. So, and it's incredible to be able to pass that forward. And but yeah, it just takes one to make the first step.
Right.
But thank you all as well.
Yeah.
And Dr. Seaman,
Thank you,
I
Britt.
would,
Go
oh,
ahead.
no, go ahead.
I was just going to read. Brittany wrote, "Thank you for service, and then also for teaching public servants, because
Yeah.
that's a part of that's part of the public service as well." Go ahead, Dr. Robertson.
No, absolutely. And Randy mentioned all the men and women of the armed forces, and
Yes.
I do want to say that you guys are very right. And I know our participants tonight are echoing this as well. It really is a calling. I mean, this is not for the faint of heart. I know Dr. Bill said we don't do this for the money. We absolutely
Hmm.
do not. We do not do this for the glamour. I think I have met probably some of the most humble individuals in public service ever. You can tell immediately when someone's in it for the wrong reasons. They're not going to be there for very long. So,
Hmm.
but they are, incredible, incredible leaders that are fine without recognition. I mean, I think it's wonderful that we have a recognition week, but this is not why people in public service do this. I mean, if they're there for the right reasons, it is because they are called to serve. And those of you that have had class with me and the panelists, kind of know this, and you might have seen it in my bio. I actually started out in private industry with GE Capital for 7 years. One of those people who was adjacent to regulations and compliance and interpreting all of that. And I really did feel that I was in the wrong spot because I can't call it a calling, but the drumbeat in GE Capital was to make money, not necessarily to make life better. And that was a huge aha moment for me. And several other people that I worked with actually left and found their calling in other places as well. So and I think that I just wanted to share that too, because I think that can be tough in our very driven society in the United States. We tend to focus on what your paycheck is and what your status is, but rather than what you can give back. And I will tell you that those who have mentored me and my family, I've mentored, people as well. You've got to have that fire in the belly for what you're doing, and you have to really, really feel, that you are making a difference. And for those that need that, public service is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful place to be. And thank you for sharing the Forest Service partners. I have already added this link, and I'm going to request several trees to be planted for all of my service members in my family and my mentors and several students that have inspired me as well. So
Nice. Let's see. Past brothers and sisters in public safety, military, coworkers at the county level. Thank you to teachers. Thank you to everybody on the panel. Yeah, I mean, thank you for all of you. Thank you for being here, wanting to, be here to recognize everybody. And I look forward to doing this year after year, and taking the time to honor the people who are behind the scenes, because we tend to always be behind the scenes. So thank you so much. And I will pass it back to Dr. Drenner.
Well, thank you, Dr. Seaman. And I'd like to add a thank you myself. I grew up in my mother was a career public servant. And then there was a twist, right? My mother ran for public office. I'm originally from West Virginia, and she ran for state representative. She did not win. Her race was very inspiring to me. And many of you all know on the panel that this will be my 14th term in the state legislature here in Georgia, and something that is honestly public service at the truest sense, because it's not a high-paying job, and it does come with a lot of contemporary problems, right? That we see play out in the news. But let me just say this, that I ask myself every 2 years this same question, not just to the voters, but I ask myself personally, why do this, right? What keeps me coming back? And it's because I feel like that I'm not extrovert, I'm an introvert. I really am kind of like in the policy weeds a lot. But I do believe that my voice and my place matters. And so I have hope for the future. Hope doesn't come in a partisan label for me. It comes in the world gets better, and it gets better because people like the panelists and all of you are doing your jobs, running government, and I'm playing a small part in helping government run. So thanks to my mom, thinking about sending free cards to my colleagues. Every year after session, I send thank you cards out to members that where I shared a special moment, or where something they did was just so like impressive. You watch them and you're like, oh my gosh, that was so cool. You said that so brilliantly. Uh, you brought a really interesting perspective to this discussion. And I think taking the time, even though it doesn't seem like we as a society spend a lot of time writing anymore, you know what I mean? But an e-card or a handwritten note goes a long way, and people really, really appreciate those kinds of things. So I want to thank all the panelists. They have extraordinary stories and have made a tremendous difference in the betterment of our world. And all of you, we're glad to play a role in facilitating your contributions as well. And so next, we're going to talk about what this, and I have to keep looking down at the word, the semi-quincentennial events that are coming up. This is really a fabulous time in our country's history, despite all of the news. This is tremendous that we are at the semi-quincentennial events, and I just want to tell all of you that there are a number of simple ways to take part. You can participate in local service efforts. You can recognize someone working in public service, or you can engage in public activities. It might also mean that you want to learn more about how public service operates where you live, or find something really small to get involved in. I mean, some of the cool events that we posted was Share Your Story Project, the America's Block Party. I mean, that really looked really cool. So the goal is really not to do everything. It's just to find one way to connect with the work in a way that's meaningful to you. So I'm going to open it back up to the panelists and let you all share your thoughts about how our story continues 250 years plus going forward. If any of you all want to add anything.
I just want to add very quickly about the Share Your Story project. That is absolutely fascinating, and I would encourage all of you to share your story, and encourage people that you know in your family, in your professional circles, to share their stories as well. Because again, this is part of the 250 project. It's going to be archived in some wonderful way. And what a great legacy to pass forward, for you, for your family, anything like that. I mean, I had an opportunity, unfortunately. Both of my grandfathers were served in World War II, and both survived, obviously, because I'm here. And I was at the beginning of a project with a congressional member out of Florida to record their stories, and they both passed away before I could do that. And so again, if you're hesitant about it, don't be. Definitely try to, even just sharing your account of those individuals, and I may even share their story through my eyes as well. But it is very powerful, and it becomes a part of our collective record, and it's really, really neat. So, plus the block party thing is super cool.
It
Yes.
is. That's I looked that one up too. I was like, wow, this is cool. Yeah, the America's Block Party, they're doing that in a lot of different places in Arizona this year. So that's where I live, is Arizona. But I'm a military kid. I was, as they call us, an Air Force brat. And I grew up mostly overseas. And my mother's a naturalized citizen. I remember being there when she was naturalized. Um, July 4th, the whole celebration it has a very personal meaning for me, being a military child, growing up overseas, and some of those experiences that I had while my dad was in active duty. And so I'm really, really excited. One of the things that we did in Arizona, and they're doing it across different places, they had the replica of the Freedom Bell that came through. Did anybody? I don't know if anybody else had that, but we've had that in Arizona already, and that was fascinating.
Haven't seen it yet. I'm really, I mean, all of the major cities are having huge July 4th celebrations. I know all the cities, the League of Cities has a huge website about all the activities that are happening at the local level. So I hope all of you will check them out as well. Dr. Pendergrass, Dr. Bill, anybody, either of you want to make some final remarks?
I can say that on behalf of my little family, my home, we're going to be contributing, making some of the absolute best apple cider this year. That is going off of the recipe of Paul Revere, the same way they used to. So if you're by my where I'm at, I will be happy to share that with you. We will be kegging it, aging it, blending it, rekegging it, and aging it again. And believe it or not, it's sweet cider. It's not hard stuff, but it's some of the best in the world. And I want to say thank you, Carla, for putting this fantastic team together. I've known Carla for what, Carla? When I started with Kaplan, I think it was what, 17 years ago? And we work together hand in hand, and she's always coming up with ideas and concepts and approaches to make somebody's day better. I can tell you some stories. Her heart is absolutely where it should be, and the production and the results and the resilience with the organization, the institution, and the people and the students are exemplary. I have the same students that Carla has, and they talk about her nonstop.
Well,
It's
thank you.
such a gauge to measure to.
I really appreciate those kind comments. But really, this was a collective effort. Every panelist contributed. Every panelist, we met, we discussed. We really wanted this to be an interactive event because if you can't tell already, we really care about public service. We do. All of us here, we really care about each of you. We care about our governments, and we really want the world to be a better place. Every single one of us here really, really do. And with all of that, I'm going to bring us to a close. I just want to say, thank you all for attending. You know, we started tonight talking about Public Service Recognition Week, focusing on people who do the work. Then we stepped back to look at the 250 years of public service and how that work has continued and evolved over time. And what connects those two ideas is really simple. Public service continues because people choose to do it, right? Thank you for being here tonight and for taking the time to reflect on the role public service plays in all of our lives. And it's public service is really not something that's separate from us. It's something we participate in, we support, and we carry forward. So again, we look forward to all of you celebrating our I don't have the word in front of me again, but our 250-year celebration. And thank you for showing up tonight. It means a lot to all of us. Thank you to all the panelists. And if there's no questions or comments, thank you for Saeed for setting everything up for us. We really appreciate it. Please let us know how we can be of assistance. And with that, have a great rest of your week. Good night, everybody.